The human fleet that emerged from dimensional phase space was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Admiral Chun stood on the bridge of the UHS Retribution, watching as her task force materialized around Haven Station like predators emerging from the shadows. Each vessel represented 5 centuries of technological advancement driven by a single, terrifying purpose: to ensure humanity would never again be caught unprepared for war. Fleet status report, she commanded. All dimensional anchors stable, reported her tactical officer, Commander Torres. 96 heavy assault vessels, 48 stealth reconnaissance ships, and 12 planet crackers fully operational. All crews report ready for immediate deployment. Through the bridge's quantum-transparent viewports, Admiral Chun could see the Confederation delegation ship maintaining a respectful distance. She understood their caution. The human vessels didn't follow conventional design principles. They existed partially outside normal space-time, their hulls incorporating materials that had been compressed through dimensional folding techniques. Communications from fleet commanders announced Lieutenant Park from the communications station. Admiral Hassan confirms the 8th Fleet is ready for deep strike operations. Admiral Rodriguez reports the 12th Fleet has completed reconnaissance of Devourer staging areas. Admiral Okonkwo requests permission to begin harassment attacks on Devourer supply lines. Tell Admiral Okonkwo to hold position, Chen replied. We need complete tactical analysis before we commit to full engagement. The Devourers had been efficient in their galactic conquest, consuming entire star systems with systematic precision. But efficiency often came at the cost of adaptability. Humans had learned during their isolation that every enemy, no matter how advanced, had patterns that could be exploited. Dr. Marcus Webb approached from the science station, his neural interface still glowing from direct connection to the ship's analytical systems. Admiral, we've completed our analysis of Devourer technology based on Confederation combat recordings. They're definitely not from this galaxy originally. Explain. Their technology is based on quantum harvesting principles we've never seen before. They can convert any form of matter or energy directly into usable resources through dimensional compression. It's incredibly advanced, but it follows rigid mathematical patterns. Weaknesses? Their adaptation protocols are reactive, not predictive. They analyze incoming attacks and develop countermeasures, but they can't prepare for threats they haven't encountered yet. More importantly, their dimensional harvesting creates quantum signatures we can track across multiple space-time layers. Admiral Chun smiled grimly. So they're hunters who've never encountered prey that fights back intelligently. Exactly. According to our projections, they've consumed approximately 47 galaxies over the past million years. Each time, the local civilizations relied on conventional physics for their defense. We're probably the first species they've encountered that operates outside normal dimensional parameters. The bridge's main display activated, showing real-time footage from the core worlds where Devourer harvesting operations continued unabated. Massive black ships hung in orbit around New Centauri, extending energy tendrils down to the planet's surface. Where those tendrils touched, everything simply vanished: buildings, landscape, atmosphere, all converted into raw materials that flowed back up to the Devourer vessels. Estimated civilian casualties in the affected systems? Chen asked. Unknown, Dr. Webb replied quietly. The Devourers don't distinguish between organic and inorganic matter. Everything gets processed into their base materials. Time estimate for complete galactic consumption at current rate? 18 months, assuming they maintain current operational tempo. Admiral Chun activated her command interface, connecting directly to every human ship in the fleet. The neural link allowed instantaneous communication across dimensional boundaries, a technology humanity had developed specifically for coordinating complex military operations. All fleet commanders, this is Admiral Chun. We're about to engage an enemy that has successfully consumed 47 galaxies. They've never lost because they've never faced organized resistance from a technologically advanced civilization. Today, that changes. The response came from dozens of admirals simultaneously, their voices creating a harmony of determination across the quantum communication network. 8th Fleet ready for dimensional assault operations. 12th Fleet prepared for stealth infiltration of Devourer command structure. 3rd Fleet standing by for planetary liberation missions. 16th Fleet ready to deploy reality anchor weapons. Chun felt the familiar surge of confidence that came from commanding humanity's finest military minds. These weren't the desperate, reactive forces that the Devourers had encountered in other galaxies. This was a military machine that had been preparing for this exact type of threat for 500 years. Initiate Operation Prometheus. All fleets are authorized to begin independent tactical operations against designated Devourer targets. Rules of engagement are total war. No Devourer assets are to survive contact with human forces. The first phase of the human counterattack began at the Vega system, where Devourer harvesting operations had been most intensive. Admiral Hassan's 8th Fleet emerged from dimensional phase space directly inside the Devourer perimeter, bypassing their early warning systems entirely. The human attack pattern was unlike anything the Devourers had encountered. Instead of attempting to penetrate their adaptive shields, human ships began firing weapons that existed in multiple dimensional layers simultaneously. The Devourers' quantum adaptation protocols, designed to counter three-dimensional attacks, couldn't process threats that originated from 11 different dimensional planes at once. Direct hit on lead Devourer vessel, reported the tactical display. Their adaptive systems are attempting to compensate, but they're receiving contradictory data from our multi-dimensional weapons array. The Devourer's ship, a massive black construct the size of a small moon, began to shimmer as its defensive systems tried to adapt to attacks coming from dimensions it couldn't properly analyze. Within minutes, its hull began showing stress fractures as reality itself became unstable around the vessel. Target neutralized, Admiral Hassan reported through the quantum communication link. Devourer vessel has suffered complete structural collapse due to dimensional paradox overload. But the Devourers weren't helpless. As news of the first successful human attack spread through their fleet network, they began modifying their tactics with frightening speed. The next wave of Devourer ships that engaged human forces had already adapted partial countermeasures to dimensional attacks. They're learning faster than anticipated, Dr. Webb warned. Their adaptation protocols are more sophisticated than our initial analysis suggested. Expected, Admiral Chin replied calmly. Phase 2. The second wave of human attacks came from Admiral Rodriguez's stealth fleet. These ships didn't engage the Devourers directly. Instead, they began targeting the quantum infrastructure that allowed Devourer ships to communicate across galactic distances. Using weapons that attacked the fundamental structure of space-time itself, human forces began severing the connections between Devourer fleets. Communication disruption successful, Rodriguez reported. Devourer fleets are losing coordination across multiple star systems. They're reverting to autonomous operation mode. This was exactly what humanity had been hoping for. The Devourer's greatest strength was their ability to adapt collectively, sharing tactical information instantly across their entire civilization. By isolating individual fleets, human forces could engage them one at a time without facing the full adaptive capacity of the entire Devourer network. Admiral Okonkwo's Deep Strike fleet began the third phase, targeting Devourer resource processing facilities in conquered systems. These massive installations converted harvested matter into the base materials that Devourer ships required for reproduction and expansion. Destroying them would cut off the enemy's ability to sustain their galactic offensive. Processing facility in the Proxima system has been neutralized, Okonkwo reported. We used temporal displacement weapons to age the facility's quantum cores beyond their operational lifespan. The entire installation collapsed into quantum foam. The pattern continued across dozens of star systems as human fleets engaged Devourer forces with weapons and tactics that defied conventional military doctrine. Ships that attacked from the past and future simultaneously. Weapons that converted enemy vessels into antimatter. Defensive systems that existed in probability space rather than normal reality. But the Devourers were beginning to adapt even to humanity's exotic warfare methods. Their learning algorithms were incredibly sophisticated, and they were starting to develop countermeasures that worked across multiple dimensional layers. Admiral, Commander Torres reported with concern, We're receiving casualty reports from the front lines. Devourer forces are beginning to successfully counter our dimensional weapons. We've lost the UHS Vengeance and the UHS Indomitable to adapted Devourer countermeasures. Chun felt the weight of command as she realized the scope of the challenge they faced. The Devourers weren't just another military opponent. They were a civilization that had perfected the art of technological adaptation over millions of years of galactic conquest. Dr. Webb, analysis of their adaptation patterns. They're using quantum evolution algorithms, Webb replied after consulting his neural interface. Every attack we make provides them with data they use to improve their defenses. At current rate of adaptation, they'll have effective countermeasures to our entire weapons array within 72 hours. Recommendations? We need to move to Phase 4 operations immediately. Direct assault on their core command structure before they complete their defensive adaptations. Admiral Chen knew what Phase 4 entailed. It was humanity's ultimate military option, developed during the darkest period of their isolation when they realized that some threats might require solutions that went beyond conventional warfare entirely. All fleet commanders, she announced through the quantum link, prepare for Phase 4 operations. We're moving to strategic reality manipulation protocols. The silence that followed her announcement was telling. Even among humanity's most experienced military leaders, Phase 4 operations were considered almost unthinkably extreme. They involved weapons that could alter the fundamental laws of physics across entire star systems, potentially making vast regions of space uninhabitable for any form of life. Admiral Chun, came Admiral Hassan's voice, heavy with concern. Are we certain the situation warrants Phase 4? Once we deploy reality manipulation weapons, there's no guarantee we'll be able to control the effects. The Devourers have consumed 47 galaxies, Chun replied. If we don't stop them here, they'll continue until they've harvested every form of intelligent life in the universe. Whatever the risks of Phase 4, they're acceptable compared to total galactic extinction. The decision was made. Across human space, the most advanced and dangerous weapons in their arsenal began powering up for deployment. These were devices that could rewrite the laws of causality within localized space-time, making it impossible for enemy forces to exist according to the basic principles of reality. But, as human forces prepared for their ultimate gambit, the Devourers were making preparations of their own. Deep in the heart of their primary command vessel, artificial intelligences that had guided galactic conquest for millions of years were beginning to recognize patterns in human tactics that suggested something unprecedented in their experience. For the first time since they began their journey between galaxies, the Devourers encountered an enemy that might actually pose a threat to their existence. The war for galactic survival was about to enter its most dangerous phase, with both sides preparing to deploy weapons that could reshape the fundamental nature of reality itself. In the space between stars, the stage was set for a battle that would determine whether intelligence would survive in the universe or whether the Devourers would complete their mission of cosmic harvesting. Admiral Chun looked out at the stars and wondered if they were about to save the galaxy or destroy it entirely in the attempt. Either way, humanity would not go quietly into extinction. The true test of human ingenuity and determination was about to begin. The reality manipulation weapons deployed by human forces represented the culmination of 5 centuries of theoretical physics research conducted in absolute secrecy. Dr. Webb monitored their activation from a UHS Retribution Science Station. His neural implants directly interfaced with systems that existed partially outside normal spacetime. Reality anchors deploying in the Devourer command sector, he reported to Admiral Chun. Local physics parameters are being rewritten according to our specifications. Through the bridge's quantum viewports, they could observe the effects in real time. Space itself began to shimmer around the massive Devourer command ships as fundamental constants of the universe shifted within the affected zone. Gravity became variable, electromagnetic forces fluctuated randomly, and the speed of light began operating according to modified equations that made conventional faster-than-light travel impossible. Devourer vessels are showing signs of structural distress, announced Commander Torres from the tactical station. Their adaptive systems can't compensate for changes to basic physical laws. The largest Devourer command ship, a construct the size of Earth's moon, began to warp and twist as the space around it operated according to new rules. Its quantum harvesting systems, which relied on precise manipulation of dimensional constants, started to malfunction catastrophically. "Direct hit," reported Admiral Hassan through the quantum link. The Devourer flagship is experiencing cascade failures across all systems. Their adaptive protocols aren't designed to handle environments where the laws of physics themselves are hostile. But the Devourer's response was swift and terrifying. Instead of trying to adapt to the altered physics, they began deploying weapons of their own that operated on principles beyond anything in human experience. Massive energy beams emerged from their surviving vessels, not attacking human ships directly, but targeting the fabric of space-time itself. "Admiral," Dr. Webb called out in alarm. "The Devourers are using quantum archaeology techniques. They're trying to restore previous versions of local space-time by accessing historical quantum states." The implications were staggering. The Devourers weren't just adapting to human reality manipulation. They were undoing it by reverting local space-time to earlier configurations where their technology functioned normally. "Effectiveness of our reality anchors is decreasing by approximately 12% every minute," Webb continued. "They're systematically erasing our modifications to local physics." Admiral Chun felt the familiar calm that came with facing an impossible situation. Throughout human history, the greatest advances had come when conventional solutions proved inadequate. "Dr. Webb, can we accelerate our reality modification protocols?" "Theoretically, yes. But it would require us to access quantum states that exist outside the normal flow of time. We'd essentially be attacking them from the past and future simultaneously." "Risks?" "Temporal paradox cascade. We could accidentally erase ourselves from the timeline entirely." Chun weighed the options as reports continued to flow in from across the battle zone. Human forces were holding their own against Devourer fleets, but the enemy's adaptation rate was accelerating. Every tactical advantage humanity gained was being countered within hours. "Do it," she decided. "All fleets prepare for temporal displacement operations." The order that followed would have been impossible for any other species to execute. Human ships began phasing out of normal time-space, existing simultaneously across multiple temporal states. From the perspective of conventional physics, they stopped existing entirely, but from within their displaced temporal frames, they could attack Devourer forces across the entire timeline of the battle. The first temporal strike hit the Devourer command fleet 3 hours before the battle began. Human ships emerged from temporal phase space and destroyed several key Devourer vessels, then immediately retreated back into the time stream before their targets could even register the attack. "Temporal strike successful," reported Admiral Rodriguez. "We've eliminated 17 Devourer command ships from the timeline. Current reality is reconfiguring to account for their absence." The effects rippled through the battle zone as causality adjusted to accommodate the temporal intervention. Devourer fleets that had been supported by the destroyed command ships suddenly found themselves operating without crucial coordination systems. But the Devourers proved once again that they were more sophisticated than anyone had anticipated. Instead of trying to counter the temporal attacks directly, they began implementing quantum archaeology on a massive scale, accessing historical data from the civilizations they had consumed to identify new tactical approaches. "Admiral," Dr. Webb reported with growing concern, "the Devourers are analyzing combat data from 47 different galactic civilizations. They're synthesizing tactical knowledge from billions of years of warfare." On the main display, they could see Devourer ships beginning to reconfigure themselves into forms that echoed weapons designs from extinct civilizations across the universe. Ship configurations that had been developed by species that had evolved in 11-dimensional space. Weapons systems based on technologies that manipulated the quantum vacuum itself. They're not just adapting anymore, Chen realized. They're innovating. The battle entered its most chaotic phase as both sides deployed weapons that existed outside normal understanding of physics. Human temporal displacement attacks clashed with Devourer quantum archaeology systems. Reality manipulation fields intersected with technologies borrowed from extinct galactic civilizations. Casualty report. Commander Torres announced grimly. We've lost the UHS Prometheus, UHS Defiance, and UHS Victory to Devourer countermeasures. Enemy forces are beginning to successfully predict our temporal attack patterns. Fleet status. 73% of fleet assets still operational, but effectiveness is declining rapidly. The Devourers are adapting faster than our ability to develop new attack vectors. Admiral Chun made a decision that would haunt her for the rest of her life, assuming she lived long enough to have regrets. All fleet commanders, prepare for Project Omega protocols. The silence across the quantum communication network was absolute. Project Omega represented humanity's most desperate and dangerous military option, a weapon system that had been theoretical even during their most pessimistic planning scenarios. Admiral Hassan's voice came through the link. Project Omega has never been tested under combat conditions. We don't know if we can control the effects once it's deployed. Explain the situation to the fleet, Chun ordered. Dr. Webb accessed his highest clearance files and began broadcasting the technical specifications across the command network. Project Omega involves the weaponization of entropy itself. We can create zones of accelerated universal decay where the fundamental forces that hold matter together begin to break down. In practical terms, anything caught within an Omega field experiences rapid atomic decay. Not just destruction, complete breakdown of matter at the subatomic level. The affected region becomes uninhabitable for any form of physical existence. Range and duration? Variable, depending on deployment configuration. Minimum effective range is approximately 1 light-year radius. Maximum theoretical range could affect entire galactic sectors. Duration is permanent. Once deployed, an Omega field continues expanding until it encounters specifically designed containment systems. The implications were clear to every human commander. Project Omega could definitely stop the Devourers, but it might also make vast regions of the galaxy permanently uninhabitable for any form of life. Alternative recommendations? Chen asked. None, Admiral. The Devourers have successfully countered every other weapon system in our arsenal. Their adaptation rate means they'll have complete countermeasures to our temporal displacement attacks within 12 hours. Chen looked out at the stars and considered the weight of the decision she was about to make. If she deployed Project Omega, she might save the galaxy by destroying significant portions of it. If she didn't deploy it, the Devourers would complete their harvest of all galactic civilization within 18 months. Admiral Chun, came a new voice through the quantum link. This is Captain Martinez aboard the UHS Eternal. I'm transmitting data from our deep reconnaissance operations behind Devourer lines. The tactical display updated with information that changed everything they thought they knew about their enemy. Images of massive Devourer construction facilities showed ships being built on a scale that dwarfed anything they had previously encountered. Analysis of Devourer industrial capacity suggests they're not just harvesting this galaxy for resources, Dr. Martinez reported. They're building something much larger than we anticipated. Specifications. The construction project appears to be a reality manipulation device of unprecedented scale. Based on energy signatures, it could affect the fundamental structure of space-time across multiple galactic clusters. The revelation hit Admiral Chun like a physical blow. The Devourers weren't just harvesting galaxies for expansion. They were building a weapon that could potentially control reality itself across cosmic scales. Time estimate for completion? At current construction rate, approximately 6 months. Chen realized that the stakes were far higher than anyone had imagined. If the Devourers completed their mega-construction project, they would possess the ability to remake the universe according to their specifications. Dr. Webb, can Project Omega affect construction on that scale? Unknown, Admiral. We designed Omega fields to target fleet-sized formations, not mega-engineering projects spanning multiple star systems. Best estimate, we need to deploy multiple Omega generators simultaneously across the entire Devourer construction zone. The coordination requirements would be extraordinarily complex, and there's no guarantee the containment systems would function properly at that scale. Admiral Chun felt the weight of cosmic responsibility settling on her shoulders. Every choice available to her involved risking the destruction of civilization itself, but inaction guaranteed that destruction. All fleet commanders, she announced through the quantum link, prepare for coordinated Project Omega deployment. Target: Devourer Mega Construction Facility. Mission parameters: total elimination of threat regardless of collateral damage to local space-time. The acknowledgments came back from across the human fleet, each commander understanding that they were about to deploy weapons that could reshape the fundamental nature of reality within the galaxy. Omega generators charging, reported Commander Torres. All fleet units report ready for coordinated deployment. Dr. Webb, final risk assessment. Unacceptable risk to galactic stability with high probability of success against target. Acceptable risk considering alternative scenarios. Admiral Chin looked out at the stars one final time, knowing that many of them might not exist once Project Omega was complete. All units, she commanded, deploy Project Omega. May whatever gods watch over humanity forgive us for what we're about to do. The entropy weapons that emerged from human ships represented the ultimate expression of scientific knowledge turned toward destructive purposes. As they activated, space itself began to die around the Devourer construction facility, reality breaking down at the most fundamental level. The galaxy would never be the same again. The deployment of Project Omega created a wound in reality itself. From the bridge of the UHS Retribution, Admiral Chun watched as space began to die around the massive Devourer construction facility. The entropy fields expanded outward in perfect spheres, reducing matter to its most basic components before breaking down those components entirely. Omega field expansion proceeding according to projections, Dr. Webb reported, his voice tight with barely controlled awe and horror. Local space-time is experiencing fundamental decay at the quantum level. All matter within the affected zone is reverting to pre-atomic states. The Devourer Megaconstruction Project, which had spanned 17 star systems, simply ceased to exist as the entropy fields reached critical mass. Ships the size of planets dissolved into quantum foam. Industrial complexes that could have manufactured entire fleets vanished as the forces holding their atoms together failed. Target eliminated, announced Admiral Hassan through the quantum communication link. Devourer Mega Construction Facility has been reduced to base quantum fluctuations, but the cost was becoming apparent as sensor readings came in from the affected region. The entropy fields weren't stopping at their intended targets. They were continuing to expand, consuming everything in their path. Admiral, Commander Torres called out urgently, the Omega fields are experiencing cascade resonance. They're drawing energy from quantum vacuum fluctuations to sustain expansion beyond design parameters. Containment status? Our reality anchors are holding for now, but energy output from the Omega fields is increasing exponentially. If current expansion rate continues, the affected zone could encompass the entire galactic core within 36 hours. Chun felt the familiar weight of command as she realized the magnitude of what they had unleashed. Project Omega was working exactly as designed, too well. The entropy fields were consuming everything they encountered, including the very fabric of space-time itself. Dr. Webb, options for containment? We can attempt to use temporal displacement to isolate the Omega fields in a closed time loop, effectively cutting them off from normal space-time. But that would require precise coordination across multiple dimensional layers while operating within an environment where the laws of physics are actively breaking down. Success probability? Approximately 37%, assuming all fleet units can maintain positional accuracy within temporal displacement fields. Before Admiral Chun could respond, new contacts appeared on the tactical display. Devourer ships were emerging from what appeared to be dimensional rifts, but these vessels were unlike anything they had previously encountered. Devourer forces detected, Torres reported. But, Admiral, these ships aren't using any technology we've seen before. They appear to be constructed from crystallized time itself. Dr. Webb's neural interface flickered as he analyzed the incoming data. "These aren't normal Devourer vessels," he said with growing alarm. "They're using quantum archaeology techniques to access technology from civilizations that existed before our current universe began." Explain. "The Devourers have somehow gained access to pre-Big Bang technological databases. They're using weapons and defensive systems that operate according to physics from previous cosmic cycles." The implications were staggering. The Devourers hadn't just adapted to human weapons. They had accessed technologies from the death of previous universes, giving them capabilities that transcended anything that should be possible within current reality. "Fleet status," Chen demanded. "All units report ready for engagement, but our weapons may not be effective against targets that exist outside our current cosmic framework," Admiral Rodriguez reported through the quantum link. The battle that followed defied every principle of warfare that humanity had developed during their isolation. Devourer ships attacked with weapons that existed in multiple cosmic cycles simultaneously, firing energy beams that had been old when the current universe was young. Human forces responded with reality manipulation devices, only to discover that their targets operated according to completely different rules of existence. "Direct hit on the lead Devourer vessel," reported the tactical officer. "No effect. Our entropy weapons are passing through their hulls without interaction. They exist primarily in previous cosmic cycles," Dr. Webb explained frantically. "Our weapons, which operate according to current universal constants, can't affect targets that follow the physics of dead universes." Admiral Chen realized they were facing an enemy that had transcended the normal limitations of existence itself. But humanity had never been normal. "Dr. Webb, can we modify our reality anchors to access previous cosmic cycles?" "Theoretically possible, but it would require us to temporarily revert local space-time to pre-universal conditions. We'd essentially be creating zones where the current universe doesn't exist. Risks? Total. If we lose control of the process, we could accidentally trigger a false vacuum collapse that would propagate throughout the galaxy at light speed. Alternative options? None. The Devourers have accessed technologies that operate outside our current reality framework entirely." Chun made the decision that would define humanity's legacy among the stars. "All fleet commanders, prepare for temporal archaeology operations. We're going to fight the Devourers in the ruins of previous universes." The human ships that began the next phase of the battle existed in a state that challenged the very concept of existence. They phased out of current space-time entirely, accessing the quantum archaeology databases that contained information about cosmic cycles that had died billions of years before the current universe began. "Temporal archaeology systems online," reported Admiral Hassan. "We're accessing technological databases from Universe -7 through Universe -3. Weapons systems. We have access to causality manipulation devices that operate according to physics from the previous cosmic cycle. Also quantum negative energy projectors and reality revision weapons." The battle that raged across multiple cosmic cycles was beyond anything that could be properly described using current language. Human and Devourer forces clashed in the quantum ruins of dead universes, using weapons that had been ancient when time itself was young. "Enemy vessels neutralized," reported Admiral Rodriguez. "Our pre-universal weapon systems are effective against Devourer forces operating in previous cosmic cycles." But the Devourers had one final surprise. As their advanced forces were being systematically destroyed, they activated a device that had been hidden within their original command structure, a quantum beacon that began broadcasting across dimensional boundaries to their origin point beyond the galaxy. "Admiral," Dr. Webb called out in alarm. "The Devourers have activated a transgalactic communication system. They're sending data about human capabilities to their primary civilization. Location: unknown. The signal is propagating through dimensional layers that exist outside normal spacetime. But energy output suggests the target civilization is operating on a cosmic scale far beyond anything we've encountered." Admiral Chun felt a chill as she realized the true scope of what they were facing. The Devourers in their galaxy weren't a full civilization. They were a scouting force for something far larger and more dangerous. "Dr. Webb, analysis of the transmitted data." complete tactical information about human weapons systems, reality manipulation capabilities, and temporal archaeology access. Also precise coordinates for human space and detailed information about our industrial capacity. Time estimate for response from their primary civilization? Unknown, but based on energy signatures, they possess faster-than-light communication systems that operate across galactic distances instantaneously. The implication struck every human commander simultaneously. They had succeeded in defeating the Devourer Scout Force, but in doing so, they had revealed humanity's existence and capabilities to a cosmic-scale civilization that had been harvesting galaxies for millions of years. Fleet commanders, Admiral Chen announced through the quantum communication link, begin immediate withdrawal to Phase Line Omega. All units implement maximum stealth protocols and prepare for extended deep space operations. Admiral Hassan asked, "What are our mission parameters for the next phase?" Chen looked out at the stars and realized that humanity's isolation was permanently ended. They had saved their galaxy from the Devourer Scouts, but in doing so, they had attracted the attention of something far more dangerous. "Mission parameters are simple," she replied. "Prepare for total war against a cosmic-scale enemy. We're going to need every technological advantage we can develop, and we're going to need them quickly. Rules of engagement: there are no rules anymore. Humanity is now fighting for survival against an enemy that operates on universal scales. Whatever it takes to ensure our species continues to exist, we do it." As the human fleet began withdrawing to their deep space bases, Admiral Chen received one final message that changed everything. "Admiral," Dr. Webb reported, "we're detecting massive energy signatures from outside the galaxy. Multiple objects approximately the size of solar systems are approaching from intergalactic space. Time to arrival? Approximately 6 months." Chen realized that the battle they had just fought was merely the opening engagement in a war that would determine the fate of consciousness itself in the universe. Humanity had 6 months to prepare for the arrival of a civilization that viewed entire galaxies as harvestable resources. Dr. Webb began immediate implementation of Project Titan protocols. "We're going to need weapons that can operate on cosmic scales. Admiral, Project Titan has never been tested. The energy requirements alone would require dismantling entire star systems. Then we dismantle star systems. Whatever it takes." As the human fleet disappeared into the depths of space, beginning preparations for a war unlike anything in cosmic history, Admiral Chen knew that humanity's greatest test was still ahead of them. They had proven they could fight beings that operated outside normal reality. Now, they would discover if they could fight beings that operated outside reality entirely. The galaxy had been saved, but the universe itself had become a battlefield. 6 months after the defeat of the Devourer Scout Force, humanity had transformed their corner of the galaxy into the most fortified region of space in cosmic history. Admiral Chen stood in the command center of Bastion Prime, a massive space station constructed from the dismantled remains of 12 star systems, watching as the final preparations for Project Titan neared completion. The approaching Devourer main force had grown during their journey toward the galaxy. Long-range sensors showed that what had started as objects the size of solar systems had merged into a single construct that defied every principle of known engineering. It was larger than most galactic clusters, and it was accelerating. "Final status report on Project Titan," Chen commanded. Dr. Webb, now permanently interfaced with systems that existed across multiple dimensional layers, responded without looking up from his quantum analysis displays. "All reality manipulation generators are online. The Universal Constant Modification Array is charged and ready for deployment. Temporal displacement systems are synchronized across 47 different timeline configurations. Weapon status: we have successfully weaponized the fundamental forces of the universe itself. Gravity, electromagnetism, strong nuclear force, and weak nuclear force can all be modified within the deployment zone according to our specifications. Additionally, we've developed the capability to create new universal constants that exist only within localized space-time." Admiral Chen looked at the tactical displays showing the scope of their preparations. Humanity had spent 6 months turning their entire region of space into a weapon that could theoretically destroy anything that operated according to the normal laws of physics. Dr. Webb, remind me of the operational parameters for Project Titan. We can modify the fundamental laws of reality within a sphere approximately 10,000 light-years in diameter. Within that zone, we control gravity, atomic forces, the speed of light, and the flow of time itself. Any enemy entering the affected region will find themselves operating in an environment specifically designed to be hostile to their existence. Duration: indefinite. Once activated, the modified reality zone becomes self-sustaining through quantum vacuum fluctuations. The affected region will continue operating according to our specifications until we actively shut down the system. Risks? Dr. Webb paused before responding, his expression grim. If we lose control of Project Titan, we could accidentally create a reality bubble that expands to encompass the entire universe. Everything that exists will be subject to whatever physical laws we programmed into the system. Success probability against the approaching devourer force: unknown. We're dealing with a civilization that has been harvesting galaxies for millions of years. They may have encountered and defeated similar technologies before. Through the command center's quantum viewports, Admiral Chun could see the defensive preparations that had consumed their civilization's entire industrial capacity. Humanity had built weapons platforms that existed in 11 different dimensions simultaneously. Ships that could attack enemy forces from the past, present, and future at the same time. Defense systems that could make entire regions of space uninhabitable for any form of existence that followed conventional physics. Fleet status? She asked. All human forces are positioned at strategic points throughout the modified reality zone, reported Admiral Hassan through the quantum communication link. We have 47 separate fleet groups, each equipped with reality manipulation capabilities and temporal displacement systems. Confederation forces? The surviving galactic civilizations have been evacuated to safe zones outside the combat area, Admiral Rodriguez added. Ambassador Xylith requested permission to remain and observe, but we convinced her that the battle zone will be too dangerous for conventional life forms. Admiral Chen nodded. The approaching battle would involve weapons and tactics that could easily destroy entire species as collateral damage. It was better to keep their allies at a safe distance. Dr. Webb, long-range analysis of the approaching Devourer construct. It appears to be a reality manipulation device of unprecedented scale, Webb replied, his neural implants flickering as he processed vast amounts of data. They've constructed something that can modify universal constants across galactic scale regions. Based on energy signatures, it's significantly more advanced than our Project Titan system. Capabilities? Unknown, but energy output suggests they can rewrite the fundamental laws of physics across multiple galactic clusters simultaneously. If they activate their system before we deploy Project Titan, they could theoretically make our weapons inoperative by changing the basic constants that allow our technology to function. Admiral Chun felt the familiar calm that came with facing an impossible situation. Humanity had always been at its best when conventional solutions proved inadequate. All fleet commanders, she announced through the quantum network, prepare for immediate deployment of Project Titan. We're not waiting for the Devourers to reach optimal range. Admiral Hassan responded. Our original plan called for waiting until the enemy force entered our defensive perimeter. Plans change. If their construct can modify reality across galactic distances, we need to strike before they have a chance to deploy it. The activation of Project Titan represented the single largest manipulation of universal constants in cosmic history. Reality anchors positioned throughout human space began modifying the fundamental forces that govern the behavior of matter and energy within a 10,000 light-year sphere. Titan field deployment successful, Dr. Webb reported. Local physics parameters have been modified according to specifications. Gravity has been increased by a factor of 10,000 within the outer perimeter. Electromagnetic forces are operating in reverse, and time is flowing at variable rates depending on proximity to our control centers. The effects were immediately visible on long-range sensors. The approaching Devourer construct began to slow as it encountered regions where time flowed differently. Its outer components started to break apart as they encountered areas where atomic forces operated according to modified principles. Direct effect on target, reported Admiral Rodriguez. The Devourer construct is experiencing structural failure as it encounters our modified reality zone. But the Devourer's response was swift and devastating. Instead of trying to adapt to the modified physics, they began deploying their own reality manipulation system on a scale that made Project Titan seem primitive by comparison. Admiral, Dr. Webb called out in alarm. The Devourers are activating their galactic-scale reality manipulation system. They're attempting to override our modifications and impose their own physical laws on local space-time. The battle that followed occurred on a level that transcended normal concepts of warfare. Two civilizations clashed using weapons that could rewrite the fundamental nature of existence itself. Space-time became a battlefield where the basic forces of the universe fought for dominance. Our reality modifications are holding in the core regions, Dr. Webb reported, but the Devourers are successfully overriding our systems in the outer zones. They're using quantum archaeology techniques to access universal constants from previous cosmic cycles. Fleet status. All human forces are operational, but effectiveness is declining as local physics becomes unstable, Admiral Hassan reported. Ships are having difficulty maintaining cohesion as fundamental forces fluctuate randomly. Admiral Chen realized they were fighting an enemy that had mastered technologies beyond anything humanity had achieved during their isolation. But humans had always been unpredictable in their tactical approaches. Dr. Webb, can we use their own reality manipulation against them? Explain. They're modifying universal constants on a galactic scale. That creates quantum resonance effects across multiple dimensional layers. If we can synchronize our reality anchors with their modification frequency, we might be able to use their own power output to amplify our systems. Dr. Webb's neural interface blazed with activity as he analyzed the possibility. Theoretically feasible, but incredibly dangerous. If we miscalculate the resonance frequency, we could create a feedback loop that destroys both our systems, and there's probability of success? Approximately 15%. But if we succeed, we could turn their galactic-scale reality manipulation system into a weapon against them. Alternatives? None. At current rate of system degradation, our reality modifications will be completely overridden within 3 hours. Admiral Chun made the decision that would either save the universe or destroy it entirely. All fleet commanders, prepare for quantum resonance synchronization with enemy reality manipulation systems. We're going to turn their own weapons against them. The technical challenge of synchronizing human reality anchors with Devourer quantum archaeology systems required precision beyond anything humanity had previously attempted. Ships had to maintain exact positional coordinates while operating in an environment where the laws of physics were changing thousands of times per second. Synchronization at 40%, Dr. Webb reported. We're beginning to establish resonance with their reality manipulation frequency. Effect on enemy systems? Their quantum archaeology access is becoming unstable. Our resonance is interfering with their ability to maintain consistent access to previous cosmic cycle technologies. Continue synchronization. 60%, 70%. Admiral, we're approaching critical resonance threshold. At this point, either both systems will achieve perfect synchronization or both will experience catastrophic feedback collapse. Proceed. 85%, 90%, 95%. For a moment that lasted eternity, two galactic-scale reality manipulation systems hung in perfect balance, their quantum resonance creating effects that rippled across multiple dimensional layers. Perfect synchronization achieved, Dr. Webb announced. We now have complete control over the Devourer reality manipulation system. Admiral Chun felt a surge of triumph as she realized what they had accomplished. Target their primary construct. The combined power of both reality manipulation systems focused on a massive Devourer construct with devastating effect. The object that had been larger than most galactic clusters began to collapse as the fundamental forces holding it together reversed their normal operation. Target destroyed, Admiral Rodriguez reported. The Devourer construct has collapsed into a quantum singularity. But Dr. Webb's expression remained grim as he monitored the aftermath. Admiral, we're detecting massive quantum instability throughout the entire galaxy. Our reality manipulation operations have created resonance effects that are propagating across galactic spacetime, meaning the galaxy itself is beginning to show signs of fundamental structural damage. If we can't stabilize local spacetime within the next few hours, we could experience a galactic-scale reality collapse. Admiral Chun looked out at the stars and realized that humanity had saved the universe by nearly destroying it. Dr. Webb, stabilization options? We can use the combined reality manipulation systems to repair the damage we've caused, but it will require shutting down all our weapons and defensive systems. We'll be completely vulnerable during the stabilization process. Time required? Approximately 72 hours of continuous operation. Risk assessment. If we don't stabilize the quantum damage, the galaxy will become uninhabitable for any form of existence within 6 months. If we do stabilize it, we succeed in preserving galactic civilization, but lose our military advantages over any future threats. Admiral Chun made the final decision of the war. Begin stabilization procedures immediately. Humanity didn't fight this war to rule the galaxy. We fought it to preserve the right of consciousness to exist. The process of repairing galactic space-time required the combined efforts of human reality, manipulation technology, and capture-devourer quantum archaeology systems. For 72 hours, the most advanced civilizations in the universe worked together to undo the damage caused by their cosmic-scale battle. When the stabilization was complete, the galaxy had been fundamentally changed. The laws of physics operated normally again, but with subtle modifications that would prevent reality manipulation weapons from ever being used on such a scale again. Admiral Chun stood on the observation deck of Bastion Prime, looking out at stars that were once again stable and predictable. Ambassador Xylith of the Galactic Confederation had arrived to begin negotiations for humanity's readmission to galactic civilization. Ambassador, Chun said as Xylith approached, I hope the galaxy is prepared for the changes that are coming. What changes, Admiral? Humanity just proved that no threat to galactic civilization is too large to overcome. The next time someone decides to harvest galaxies for resources, they'll discover that consciousness doesn't surrender without a fight. And humanity's role in the new galactic order? Admiral Chun smiled as she looked out at the stars. The same role we've always played. When the universe becomes a dangerous place, humans figure out how to make it safer. The galaxy had shouted for salvation, and humanity had answered. The age of cosmic-scale threats was over, because the universe now knew that consciousness itself was willing to fight back with weapons that could reshape reality itself. The stars shone peacefully, and for the first time in galactic history, peace was protected by the knowledge that it could be defended at any cost.